My name's Eric Wielander and welcome to Windy Tech. Today I want to do a quick follow-up video to a recent video I did on CES 2019 and what we can expect from HomeKit in 2019. If you've missed that video, it's linked in the description below or probably up at the top in a card. As we all know, what gets announced and what we can guess was coming from CES is not always what actually happens. And there's still probably a lot of things that weren't announced at CES still coming this year. So this is what I want to see from HomeKit and the broader ecosystem in 2019. And let me know down in the comments below if some of these are things that you really like too, or if maybe there's things that I haven't mentioned on here that you're really wanting in HomeKit to see this year. The first thing is more accessory support. This is probably true every single year for me and a lot of other people. It's just HomeKit needs more accessories. There continues to be more smart home stuff that comes out and doesn't support HomeKit. For example, a quick follow-up from my last video, I talked about the Lutron Caseta fan switch, which will be able to turn any sort of dumb fan into a smart fan by making the wall switch that controls that fan hooked into Lutron's Caseta wireless ecosystem. And that's great. And a bunch of other Caseta products support HomeKit already, but in sort of the clarifications with Lutron coming out after the announcement, it looks like, even though a number of blogs did report that HomeKit support was coming, that it's not coming at launch. That they plan to potentially support HomeKit later on, but when the product is slated to come out in March, it looks like there's not going to be HomeKit support out of the gate. And it's hard to say whether this is something that maybe Apple needs to add more UI into HomeKit for, although they have smart fan support already, so I think we're good there, or maybe it's just, you know, Lutron needs to do more work, but that's what I'm getting at. I feel like there's a lot of overhead and extra work that these companies have to do to support HomeKit, and the more Apple can continue to make that easier, the better. They did a huge step forward in that in 2018 by making it so accessories no longer had to be controlled or integrated with HomeKit via a hardware chip. It can simply be just a software update or integration, and that's part of why you see certain accessories like the Belkin Wemo switches or the TP-Link smart plugs either getting HomeKit support already via a software update, or the vendor, you know, in TP-Link's case, announcing that it's coming. But Jason Johnson, the CEO of August, had a great interview with Nilay Patel on the Vergecast this past week, and I'll link that below. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't heard it already. And in that, he outlined some concerns and issues that he's seen August have with supporting HomeKit in terms of video with their video doorbell and potential other products, as well as his speculation on that they're not the only players in the space seeing this issue as well. You know, Ring, of course, announced HomeKit support, and that has yet to actually materialize. The next thing I'd love to see personally is better Apple TV integration. We got some really exciting announcements about TVs that will support HomeKit and AirPlay 2 built into the TV at CES, but you know, the problem is it's newer TVs, and all of these TVs are pretty high end. I think the lowest starting price of one of these televisions is $1,500. And so there are a lot of people who buy TVs, including myself, that are, you know, not that expensive. And so I think hooking up an Apple TV to maybe an existing television you have, or maybe a cheaper new one you buy, is still gonna be a big part of a lot of people's experience. And Apple TV has always been an accessory inside of HomeKit. You can see it and it can still work as your HomeKit hub, but you can't really do much else with that. I would love to see the ability to turn the TV on or off via HDMI CEC, you know, to control the TV and Apple TV, turn those on or off via a HomeKit scene along with lights and other stuff, and maybe even launch specific bits of video that you might just want playing on the TV for a specific scene. Maybe it's the gorgeous Apple TV screensavers, or maybe it's you know, a fireplace video, or just, you know, some kind of thing that you want just looping on the TV as part of a dinner scene or a party scene, or any other kind of thing where you might have people around and you just want something on the TV as part of the the general setup of the home. So the next thing I would really like to see in HomeKit in 2019 is Siri in more places. Right now, if you want to put Siri as an always-on home assistant in some room in your house, that's $329. Maybe you can get the HomePod on sale, but it's still a pretty steep price tag compared to something like Amazon's Echo system. You can get an Echo Dot now for like $30 on Amazon US, which is a lot cheaper. And I got 2 Google Home Minis for the Google Assistant system, both free with different Nest products I bought last year. And there are numerous companies at CES that announced built-in support of either Amazon's Alexa system or Google Assistant built into various other products. So I think, you know, without trying too hard, consumers like myself are gonna start to get more of these speakers from these other ecosystems in their house. And for me, I have Amazon Echoes in a lot of different rooms in my house. It's hard to go to a place in my house where there's not one that can't hear you. And so I end up just using that voice assistant to control a lot of my smart home stuff just because it's top of mind. It's what I'm thinking of. Doesn't mean I don't use HomeKit as well, but you can see that sort of momentum moving in a direction that's not good for Apple. I think, you know, if Apple really wants HomeKit to be a key part of a lot of people's Apple experience, Siri needs to be a voice assistant that you can talk to in an always-on way in any room. Of course, you always have theoretically always have your iPhone or your Apple Watch with you, but again, that's not going to be as fast or as readily available sometimes as just having that speaker always on in the room. You know, I'd love to see Apple make maybe like a $100 cheaper Siri speaker. You know, still probably more expensive than competition, but it's a lot more reasonable than their current price. And, you know, maybe even bundle it with some other products where you could get it for like, you know, $69 or something like that as a discount. But it would be great to see Apple partner with other people to bring Siri into other products, kind of like they do with AirPlay 2 and HomeKit. But I'm not counting on that happening. I think it's way more likely that Apple releases their own kind of product, but something needs to happen in that space. Otherwise, I think they're going to quickly start to lose ground in 2019 as these other voice assistants continue to have really easy to access alternatives. Another thing on the HomePod specifically is better music playback options with scenes. So right now, if you want to trigger music playing on a HomePod with a specific scene, you can set up a Siri shortcut. And then if your phone is linked to that HomePod and you talk to that HomePod to run the shortcut, it will play the music on the HomePod and it will play the, or it'll trigger the smart home scene. But that's kind of a convoluted way to get this to work. And, you know, there are some certain things. I think Federico Viticci over at Mac Stories has done some things where, you know, you can trigger some of this via a Mac Mini and a bunch of other extra stuff in between. But, you know, just having it be where you can go in the Home app and you can say, with this scene, I want this HomePod to play this playlist from Apple Music. And, you know, even better than that, I want this HomePod and these other AirPlay 2 speakers near it to play this playlist from Apple Music. I think that would be great. I'm a huge fan of Sonos. I have Sonos speakers all over my house. And I do really love that you can be so specific about, I want this to play on my HomePod at this particular time. And then beyond that, it's completely separate from what your phone's doing. Of course, you can always use AirPlay 2 from your phone to speakers, but then your phone or some other Apple device is doing that work for you. You know, the benefit of something like Sonos is it's an always-on, completely independent music system from whatever else you're wanting to do with your phone and your home. And I think it seems like HomePod has the total hardware capability to deal with that and just talk directly to Apple Music. But right now, you don't really have that option to link HomeKit so easily with these HomePods. Another thing that I'm really excited about this year in 2019 that I didn't catch before I made the last video is that Hue announced a bunch of new outdoor products, and including a Philips Hue motion sensor for outdoors, which is more rugged than their indoor one and has a farther motion detecting range. I think this will be a really exciting tool, provided it supports HomeKit, which I'm pretty sure it will. And in terms of creating more outdoor scenes and automation as the weather gets warm. Let me know in the comments below if there's something that you're really interested in HomeKit and Apple adding in 2019 that I didn't get to or didn't mention. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It helps others find this channel and these videos. Subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. More videos on all of these topics between Sonos and different voice assistants and HomeKit coming this year. Really excited about all of that. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.